Hey YouTube, Youth Director here again. I'm working on another project. I finally found some speakers for my ATMOS that match the original ATMOS speakers I have. They're like 20 years old because I'm using some old Polks that I really love. Everything I have is totally matched because it has the same tweeter and the same woofer. So what I'm gonna do now is move my speakers from a top middle position to a top front and also a top rear and have a 4 in ceiling ATMOS setup. But while I'm also doing that, I also did get some new seating as well. So we got this new seating right here, and we ended up moving the platform forward a little bit. And so I'm taking the side surround speakers. I'm also going to move those forward, so we're going to reconfigure that just a little bit too to get those more up to the front row of seats. What I have on those side surround is I have these Polks, these kind of dipole bipole speakers. But what I'm thinking about doing with these is actually building a box that has the same internal dimensions, but it's not a triangular shaped box, and insetting that box into the wall into like a column using the same tweeter, same woofer, actually the same baffle, because the tweeter is built into the front little baffle. And I'm not going to tear up the speaker. I'm just going to take it apart and put it in there, and with the crossover and the tweeter and the woofer, and see if it works. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I tend to save all my drywall and things like that. If I have to cut the drywall out, which I will do, I will be able to put that back and patch it up if I need to. So I'm not scared to take out drywall and put in speakers. All right, so I want to give you guys a look at some of the stuff I've done so far. What I've been working on is trying to make a speaker enclosure. Well, so here is the speaker currently. Before, I haven't put it together yet, but I've made all the holes. Now I had to make this template. After I cut out this hole, I laid the template over top of it and marked all the holes. Now these two are here. These bottom two holes are for the grill. These little 4 rubber pieces are for those 2 holes, and then the top 2 holes. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you guys is, so this is a jig that I made for my router to get the holes on the speaker just right. So this I actually put this nail through, and that's what stuck into the center part of the wood, and it just helped me spin my router circular around that. And then I made for the smaller tweeter, this is for the tweeter, and this is for the port. So I just moved this nail to this one and to this one to get closer to the router bit for each one of those. And I was using my micrometer to try to get everything the right width. And so it took me a while. It took a lot of playing around to get that right, but I finally got it to work. Now I'm taking out the internals out of the original speakers so that I can put them into the new enclosure that I built. There's some sticky putty that is holding the wires in. I have to get rid of that. Taking off the crossover, have to unsolder the opposite tweeters. As you know, this is a dipole/bipole speaker, so the tweeter on the opposite side I'm not using. So there was some residual putty left inside the speaker connectors. Had to get that cleaned out. Could not feed it onto the woofer driver or the tweeter driver, especially because there's very small connectors. But got that taken care of. Putting this all together using what was in the original speaker. You see you got the batting inside there for some sound deadening. And now we're putting the woofer in. About to put the tweeter that's connected to the baffle in and get all that nice and buttoned up. And I do decide to go ahead and put the grill on, since I did drill the holes for that, but as far as using the grill, probably won't happen. So I did the measurements, made sure that I had the speaker situated on the wall right where I wanted it, the tweeter at the proper height, the front to back compared to the front row of seating's proper height. I'm trying to cover the seats up to try to not get so much dust on the seats. Doesn't really work, but I do it anyway. So I had the speaker up there, got it level, cut out the wall, but this is right up against the concrete, so it's pretty difficult. Couldn't pull it out, so I had to cut a corner out of it. And you can see the concrete there. That little piece of wood is all that we have between the drywall and the concrete, so the speaker can't go into the wall very far. But we get it figured out. We take some angle brackets, stick them behind the drywall on the bottom and on the top, screw the speaker into that, and it works perfectly. Try to do the same thing over here on the other side, but it's an open cavity. I stuck some extra fiberglass, actually that's rock wool, into the wall. The brackets I have here are way too big, so they don't really work very well. Well, these aren't going to work because they stick out actually too far. This side of the speaker can actually go into the wall more because over there is concrete, but over here it's not. I can go into this wall, it's just an open cavity. But the only brackets I had left were these large brackets, and they're just too large. They stick out way too far. And I only have 2 of them instead of 4, so I think I'm gonna go to the store, get some more brackets, and then come back and finish this up. All right, got some 2-inch ones now. Hopefully this will work. They're brass, which I don't really like that, but it's all they had. There were 2. The other ones were 2.5. So it does take me a little while longer to get the second speaker situated into this wall. That's because I didn't make the hole large enough. I had to take a little bit off the top, put it back into the hole, but also the angle brackets. This one I had to put a piece of wood on the other side of the drywall, sandwich the angle brackets in between the pieces of wood, get it just right, and then put the speaker up there. It all worked out in the end, and it looks identical to the other side. All right, so we have the 2 speakers in. Now I need to take the wires that I have tucked away and kind of untuck them, figure out those are gonna work, and then I'm gonna put in, cover the holes with drywall where the old ATMOS speakers were, the 0.2 that I used to have. That's gonna be a 0.4 system now. Yeah, so I have to cover those up. But one of them has a wire in it. So we have a wire right there. I think that's going over to the surround speaker. If that's the case, then I'm gonna need to move that because that surround speaker was back there and now it's up here. I'll have to move that back over. So I may have to pull it through. So we'll look at the wires first, and then probably before I move them, I'm gonna go ahead and put up the drywall. And I saved the drywall that I took out of those holes, so that way if I ever needed to put it back, all I needed to do was just put a couple pieces of wood up in the hole, screw to those pieces of wood, to the existing drywall, and then put the piece I cut out and screw it to those pieces of wood to match it up. So anyway, let's get to work on that. Not quite sure how I'm going to deal with the trim that holds all the wiring and tucks it nice in a way. I'm going to deal with that after I build the columns. What I'm doing now is I'm putting a couple of pieces of wood into the cavity above the drywall, screwing it to the existing drywall, and then taking the original piece of drywall that I took out when these were used as top center speaker holes and putting it back in there. Doing the same thing to this side. Have a couple wires in the hole, going to move those out of the way. So I have to take the trim down again to move those out of the way and screw that piece of drywall back in its place. All right, I've done a few things off camera. We just basically ran the speaker wire to the speakers and also fixed the hole in the ceiling that I kind of did wrong, so I'll show you what I did. So here's the hole. It was, for some reason, I mismeasured, and so I had to actually take the piece I took out of it, cut the end of it off, put it right there, and then cut this front off right here. And so now it's in 2 pieces on the floor. If I ever need to fill this hole, I'll have those 2 pieces. Over here, I ran the speaker wire down to the speaker just for temporary purposes. Same thing over here. I still have to cut that one to length. Now what I'm going to work on is these 2 speakers wires are going to go to the top front. I've got to move them up here and pull them through the ceiling. So let's get to work on that. This is the most difficult section of wiring I have to work with in my home theater, as I have so many wires bundled together. Got to get them undone, drill a couple of holes to feed some new wires in to the new top front speaker locations. I actually end up changing this wire out because this wire that I have is longer. I can use it for my back speakers and it works well for that. Get it fed through and then have to feed it through again. So a little bit of work done off camera. I ended up switching some of the speaker wires out just to go for ones that were already installed that were a little bit longer to reach the back. and I wanted the newer wires I have. I didn't have enough length to get to either one of the back speakers, so I ran it across up here up front. So give you a look at what that looks like. I have one more speaker wire to run, but I think what I'm gonna do before I do that is go ahead and install these 3 speakers first that I have ran, and then, well, maybe not this back one, but at least these front 2, and then get those set up and then run that last speaker wire. Maybe watch a movie tonight with it kind of torn apart a little bit, but here's what I've got. So you saw me run this one right here, but I ended up running one of the insulated white wire right there over here to this one, and then the one that was run to that one is now here in the back. And I still have to make the longest run, which is that back there. And there's also air ducting in that. I don't know if you can see the silver up in it. So I need to pin that up there so it's out of the way. And I have to grab the only speaker wire that I have that's long enough is in another room where it has exposed ceiling. There's no drywall or anything up. So I'm gonna pull one of those speaker wires down and then run it. So here I'm getting all the ends of the speaker cables trimmed up nice and neat to fit right with the new speakers. By the way, these are Polk AB755s. They're the same driver, woofer, 6.5-inch woofer, and tweeter, the aluminum tri-laminate tweeter that all of my speakers use. Another thing that's different from, I don't know if you could see, whenever we were looking up at the center or top center speaker locations, I had them wider than what these are currently. I went to Home Theater Gurus, and it suggested that your ear height to your ceiling is about the distance you should have these speakers apart. So for my ear height to my ceiling, it's about 5 feet. So I moved the ATMOS speakers inward. Originally they were in line with my main speakers, my front mains, but I decided that, hey, let's make them more in line from an angle from the front speaker to my ear. So I kind of went with the Home Theater Gurus, which is 5 feet apart, left, right speakers, ATMOS, top, front, 5 feet apart, but also kind of at an angle from the front speaker to me. Along that angle, it matches up with that. So much better situation of that. Now I'm here dealing with all of these wires, getting them ran and trying to get them tucked away. Again, I don't get them completely tucked away because it's so bulky, and I leave it to where when I make the columns, which I haven't made yet, I can cover those wires up just a little bit better. So I'm finishing up feeding the new wire that I got from my son's room into the AV receiver. One thing I do want to say about these speakers, yes, they are old. They do not have aimable tweeters because that was not a thing back then. That I might be able to modify these speakers to where I can aim the tweeter, put a little bracket, and turn it towards the main listening position. But I have to say, the way that they are now, it works really, really well. I feel like I can hear the directionality of where things are coming from really easily once I got everything dialed in. So I don't know if I really want to do that. Of course, Home Theater Guru says you don't really have ATMOS unless you have everything aimed directly at the main listening position, but it sounds really good for me so far. All right, so we have finished a good portion of this project so far. I'm going to give it a little bit of a stopping point right here in the video with this, but we did get the 4 ATMOS speakers in the ceiling. Not everything is put up just yet because I still have some more work I want to do. Not for sure when I get to it, but the movie room was enough together that we could watch a couple of movies. So we watched Top Gun Maverick and we just watched Black Adam. Both were good movies, both had really good sound, so I enjoyed it. And so let me show you kind of where we're at in the process right now, and then we'll end the video. So here's the speaker in the wall. Again, there will be a column that goes straight to the ceiling, from the ceiling to the floor. You will not see this speaker like this. So it's very rough, unfinished looking right now because it's unfinished. Didn't want to cut the covers because I'm not for sure what I'm going to do with this. I didn't want to cut those covers since I had to move this from, it went about middle of where that Stallone poster is, the Rambo poster, and I moved it over here, and so now they're not quite cut the correct way. so I didn't want to recut them until I was ready to do that. Over here, same thing. Plus there's lots of wires, and so they're kind of bulky. They don't all necessarily fit, and so I'll have to fix those. Again, we patched up that hole and that hole because we had top middle speakers before. Now we have the back and we have the front, actually rear, and we have front. This is the hole I had to fix right here as well. And then one other thing I did this morning was I put a piece of black felt across the top right here. I got it from a friend of mine and was going to use it for a different project, and I asked him if I could use it for this, and he let me use it. I might see if I can get some more of that stuff because it works. It's very, very sticky. It was hard getting it up there, but it really makes the screen pop better. It's so much more black. You can see behind me. Really happy with where it's at so far. A lot more work to get done. Again, eventually I'm going to put columns here with these speakers and columns for every speaker that's on the wall or sitting out here. I want to build boxes for those and put them in columns. The only problem is, I think, the port, I didn't get the port just right. The port moves a lot of air out of it, and I made the port a little shorter than it should have been, and so I think it might have a little bit of chuffing with it. So still some things to figure out, get set. I'm happy with it so far. So anyway, I'm going to sign out here. Again, thank you guys for being here with me, and I know it's been a while since I've had videos out. I'm trying to I got a few in the queue to try to get ready to get going. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.